Morning and welcome to Mystic Mondays. This is a new series that I'm going to be sharing on YouTube every Monday for the next couple of weeks. See how it goes, maybe the next few months. And it's just going to be a roundup of the astrology that we've seen in the last week. Particularly today, we're going to be talking about the weekend because it's been heady with astrology. It's been a lot. And I do a more kind of in-depth one of these for subscribers. So if you're interested in subscribing, check out Hermetica, the original astrology subscription via my website, which is midheavenmoonrise.com. And yeah, so they all get the subscribers all get like a preview of this and get early access to this sort of information. But I felt like Mystic Mondays would be a really nice way to kind of talk through lived experience of the astrology that we've just had at the weekend and over the last week, or anything really that comes up in particular that's been fairly significant in the astrology in recent times. So let's dive right in. And this weekend we had Venus conjunct Jupiter in Pisces. So we already had that mystical, amazing, dreamy, ethereal, possibly a bit sleepy, may have gotten you too much into the feels, Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, which was it 22nd of April, if I remember rightly. So we're still in that conjunction, but it's not exact. So when we talk about exact conjunction dates, or exact dates, people talk about Mercury retrograde, which is coming up soon, or Uranus stationing direct or retrograde. The dates that astrologers share about those things are the exact dates when the exact minutes and degrees line up. So they're alongside each other. So in this instance, Venus has come to conjunct Jupiter in Pisces at the same degree. I don't know the exact degrees because I didn't check before I came on, which is a bit silly, but I know it's the latter degrees because the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction was at 22 of Pisces. Maybe that's why I think it was on the 22nd of April. Yeah, it was about a week ago anyway. But really, we're here to talk about the symbolism. And Venus, whenever Jupiter is joined in a conjunction with anything, it emphasizes, it exaggerates, it goes over the top, above and beyond, which can play out in, more positive and more negative ways. A really interesting way to work out if you're going to have a more positive or negative experience, just a very kind of simplistic sense, is you can look at your birth chart and look at your natal Jupiter and Venus and see if they're in a good condition. Venus really likes to be in the sign of Pisces. She really likes to be in the 5th house. Sorry, loads of people are suddenly waking up. It's like Bank Holiday Monday in the UK. And there was nobody around and suddenly everyone's flooding the streets. It's bizarre. I thought I was going to get a quiet moment. Yeah, Venus likes 5th house, likes to be in Pisces. Also very happy in the sign of Taurus and Libra. And therefore the 2nd and the 7th houses. So any of those would be a good condition. Venus, Jupiter, likes to be in the sign of Pisces, also likes to be in the sign of Sagittarius, and therefore the 9th house and the 12th house is the more sort of, in very simplistic terms, like I said, very simplistically, that's not even the right words, very simply put, those are kind of happier places for Jupiter and Venus. Have you got Jupiter and Venus in a natal conjunction, so very close together in your natal birth chart, in the same sign, or crossing a house cusp, so on the ascendant descendant axis or the MCIC axis, so they could be in different houses but still conjunct. They can also be in different signs but still conjunct. So if you get a Venus at 28 degrees of Aries and then a Jupiter at 1 degree of Taurus, then that's a conjunction as well. It's just an out of sign conjunction, so it has a different flavor to the same sign conjunction, but it's still significant astrologically. And or do you have natal Venus Jupiter in a trine, so 120 degrees away from each other? So when we look at a birth chart, a really nice and simple way to look at this is, have you got Venus and Jupiter in the same element? So water to water, Pisces to Cancer, or Cancer to Scorpio, or Scorpio to Pisces, or have you got them in a trine in the earth signs or the air signs or the fire signs? That's another really supportive Venus Jupiter natal aspect as well. And so what this really means is that when we have Venus Jupiter conjunct in the sky, is that it's activating our own experience of Venus Jupiter, as well as where Venus and Jupiter are transiting in the birth chart. So in the sign of Pisces, for me personally, Venus Jupiter were transiting the 9th house of higher education, spirituality, religion. What I'm learning at the moment, side note, is that I need to slow down when I'm talking, when I'm giving readings, when I'm doing videos, because I just get so excited. I can't even get my words out because I'm just talking so quickly. So yeah, for me, it was in the 9th house. And I did a couple of readings at the weekend, and there was a very kind of teacher vibe to it. And somebody asked me, am I teaching these classes? And so I did begin teaching earlier this year, and then lots of life happened and I've had to put that on hold, but I'm really hoping to bring that back as soon as possible. I've got a transits class, which is locked and loaded and ready to go. So that's probably one of the first ones I'll be sharing. I did a moon class as well about connecting with your own moon sign and how you can utilize the moon, the lunar archetype in your daily life as a form of self-care, because I really believe strongly that astrology is an excellent form of self-care. So Venus, Jupiter in Pisces. Venus is romance, love affairs, finances, values. It's very dreamy and ethereal, and being in aspect to Jupiter, these things could be really heightened at the weekend. So here's an example. I've got natal Venus Jupiter conjunct in my birth chart, and they're on the descendant, which is very much of other people, and Jupiter on the descendant is typically a real love and enthusiasm for foreign cultures and people from faraway lands, and as well as philosophy and ancient teachings and things like that. And some of my readings I did the weekend were like across the world, and I just absolutely, for me, that is like such a joy, just to it's so exciting to be able to connect with people, purely because we have Zoom and things like that. If I could just jump on a plane and go and do a reading in Australia or New Zealand or somewhere like that, that would be like the ultimate. How cool would that be? So this is very Jupiter on the descendant, and my natal Venus is there as well, which brings money into the situation. So obviously people purchasing readings from me from abroad. I just felt like that was a really nice play out of the energies for me personally. And I've got lots of natal Pisces stuff going on anyway, with the moon in the midheaven, and the midheaven being very much us out there in the world and our achievements and things. So I wasn't planning on talking too much about me. It was just, I just thought it would be really nice on these Mystic Mondays to come together and talk about what our experiences have been, because you hear so much of astrologers talking about this conjunction's going to happen or this aspect's going to happen, there's going to be this square in opposition. Everyone's like, oh my god, what does it mean? And it's just like, actually, in reality, when it comes down to the lived experience of it, it can be quite different, perhaps. Often a lot more subtle than we think it's going to be. There's me with my overactive imagination, always thinking something really dramatic's going to happen. I'm going to, walk down the street and, suddenly meet an old friend from school, and we're going to reconnect, and then we're going to go into business together or something like that. And in reality, it's not always quite like that. Although it can be. So always stay open to the magic of the universe, I think, is important with this one. But I really like sharing how these transits work for us. So please let me know in the comments below if you had a particular experience of this Venus-Jupiter conjunction at the weekend, and which house it was transiting for you as well. And let's share these stories, because I think that's another thing that I really love about astrology, is that for me, ultimately, it's storytelling. It's the storytelling of our lives. And for anybody that wants to share that story with the world, I think that's really exciting, and, you know, definitely something worth talking about and connecting over. So back to the transits we also had, which I haven't shared a post about yet on Instagram, but I really do need to, because I find it very significant. Pluto stationing retrograde until October of this year. So typically Pluto will spend 6 months direct and 6 months, you know, roughly time-wise, retrograde. When it's stationed, so when it's slowing right down, and you can track this in the ephemeris on you know, a website like astro.com, you can see the minutes and the seconds really barely changing, because, sorry, my hand's really shaking. I'm going to change hands. Yeah, you can see the minutes and the seconds really slowing right down, and the symbolism therefore becomes really emphasized. So again, look to natal Pluto in your birth chart to see how you experience Pluto transits. You know, if you've got Pluto in Scorpio, therefore you're slightly more comfortable with the idea of what Pluto does, that it takes us deep down into facing our fears and into those regenerative places. And this is a what's the word? This is a collective thing. This is a you know, it's like a cohort thing, bigger than a cohort. Generational, that's the word. I knew it would come to me. It's 8:30 on a Monday morning, and I've literally just left the house, so my brain is kind of still kicking in. But yeah, it's a generational energy. So you know, people I was born in 1984, and I've got Pluto in Scorpio, but there are some people in my year group who have got Pluto in Libra. I say that in my year group, possibly not my year group. I'm just thinking, one of my siblings has got Pluto in Libra, and he's 1981. So yeah, just 3 years before. And Pluto stays in the sign for about 12, what have we been, 2008, I think Pluto went into Capricorn, and Pluto's going to go into Aquarius next year. So sort of 12, 13 years, and we get lots of retrograde and direct motions. So yeah, so this is a big group chunk of people, and this is why we see, like, in generations of people, the themes that they come up against in society and in the world wide, as well as personally. But Pluto being an outer planet, this is very much a collective energy. So Pluto went retrograde in Capricorn. So it's currently at 28 degrees. So it'll be going back through sort of 27, 26 degrees of Capricorn, and really revisiting those areas that we've been working on so hard. So Pluto is always going to be transiting somewhere in your chart. So it's like Pluto is someone that we can never get away from. He will always be there. However, sometimes he'll be more significant to us individually, and sometimes he won't be. So if he's forming a conjunction within 8 degrees of the same sign, or crossing the signs within 8 degrees, then he will be significant. A trine, sextile, square, oppositions and squares will be felt more strongly. Trines are creative and a harmonious energy, as are sextiles. So they're the kind of the easier going ones, probably where you might see more of the rebirth and the growth instead of the contraction and the going inward, which might be more of a conjunction or opposition or square energy with Pluto. Yeah, and so when Pluto stations, we really feel the intensity of Pluto. And a really interesting activity to do is to look at where the planets were when you were born. So this is in terms of secondary progressions, which, you know, is a whole other video. But basically, look to see what Pluto was doing on the day you were born. Was it direct? Was it retrograde? Was it stationing? So if it was stationing, then this means that your own relationship with Pluto is probably and likely going to be intensified. It'll be a bigger part of your life, because you were born under this energy anyway. So it's in you, it's a part of you, it's part of your archetype, as part of your natal blueprint, your stellar blueprint. Slow down again, Freya. So yeah, look to see what Pluto was doing, and it's just in the ephemeris. It's a D, capital D or capital R for when it went direct or retrograde. There isn't a stationing, but you can see it, like I said, in the minutes and the degrees in the minutes. So it's really slowing right down. You'll look, and a Pluto station is like 2 degrees for like, you know, a couple of pages. It's sort of kind of like fascinating if you're interested in patterns and, you know, mathematics. It's a really interesting one to watch. Symbolically, my version of Pluto retrograde is that I found myself really attracted to graveyards. It was a beautiful sunny day in Norfolk in the UK, and the flowers are all blooming in the graveyards, and it just felt like a really beautiful celebration of the life of the people that were laid to rest in that graveyard. And I think when I was younger, I used to find graveyards kind of a bit spooky, and I don't even know why, because it doesn't need to be. It's an honoring of a life cycle. Is death is part of birth, is part of life, is part of living. You know, it's all part of the process. However, there is so much attached to this idea of death, so much stigma and fear and terror, and I just thought it was interesting, and it was a really nice moment for me to stop and reflect in this graveyard. I was actually just walking through. I didn't stop. You know, I had the kids with me, so it's always a bit mental, but I just really enjoyed a moment of looking at the flowers and the graves, and just honoring and having some sense of like peace about the process, about the cycles of life in general. And so yeah, that was my Pluto station. And I think it's interesting because I think, what house was it in for me? 7th house. So this is partnerships and marriage and things like that. And I do tend to always find it kind of curious when you see gravestones and you see, you know, repeated surnames or families, or you get that little list on a gravestone of like, you know, this person, after this person, you know, mother of, daughter of, brother of, sister of, uncle to, all of that kind of stuff. It really brought up all these ideas of the family that we create just from 2 people, which feels so different. This is like, personally, that feels so different to the idea of the family we grow up in. As a child, family is one thing, and as an adult, I think the family that we make is something else. And I think for me, because I've got Capricorn in the 7th house, ultimately what I'm trying to make my, you know, my marriage and my family about is trying to make it as close as possible to my own experience in childhood for my children, not for me necessarily, although that would be nice. And it's a growing up, you know, that childhood is very much the first house. Oh, video time's going to run out. I need to wrap up. But yeah, childhood is very much that first house, the me, and the very basic needs as a child. And then we get to work our way around the zodiac, get to the 7th house, and we meet the other. And it's about integrating the other into our lives so that we can create this adult version of family. That's all for today. Thank you so much for joining Mystic Mondays, and I'll be back soon. Take care.